Hello again. My name is Matthew Janisek. We're going to do a second installment here of Truth Time, Sunday, November 8th, 2020. These are a few questions I've thought of, as many of us are paying very close attention to the events unfolding in the United States as we speak. These are just some questions that should make you go, what we know and what we don't know, and what we need to remember. This simple refresher first. The National Security Act of 1947, we know the deep state existed after that point. It's existed in our nation in just different names. What we don't know is what exactly they are hiding, nor all they have been up to, because they generally have very little to no oversight. But we may find out some of those things soon. We know we've been lied to many times over the last 75 years or so. Here's just a few of the lies our institutions have told us that we know for sure we were not getting the straight story. First one would be that I can look up and identify as the 1953 CIA assisted operation to overthrow Mossadegh in Iran. The next would be knowledge that the CIA had of the assassination of the South Vietnamese President Diem in '63 and the assassination of JFK a couple weeks after that. We know that the truth is being withheld. We know we're being lied to about that and have been for a long time. We know the assassination also of Bobby Kennedy happened in a presidential race in which he was forecast to win. I can't help but think he may have wanted to find out what had happened in the murder of his brother, but that's just from a critical thinking perspective. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, we know we did not get the full story on that, and that led us to the Vietnam War. The Pentagon Papers, when they were published, led to our larger understanding that the Vietnam War was based largely on a narrative that was crafted and very far from the truth. The Watergate scandal, the blanket pardoning of Richard Nixon by Gerald Ford, the 75 Church Commission abuses by the CIA, NSA, and the FBI, the Iran-Contra affair, the 2003 weapons of mass destruction claim that led us into the Iraq War, the 2008 market crash, and the bailouts that ensued, the IRS targeting of conservative groups, the existence of UFO technology, the healthcare costs being reduced, or that the patient may keep their doctor promises during Obamacare, the massive surveillance system that we became aware of after Edward Snowden's disclosures, the DNC taking out Bernie Sanders, the Clinton email destruction. Hey, these are all stories where the people were not getting the truth. And this leads right up to the recent time. The Inspector General Horowitz report that came out detailing the 17 at least improprieties that went into the Russia collusion investigation. The forging of documents by the FBI to change the notification that Carter Page was actually a CIA asset. What's going on in this world? We don't know from that point of view, and we still don't know. But we know that it wasn't legal. The entire Russia collusion hoax in general. The fake impeachment that transpired. If the truth sets you free, imagine how free we all will be spiritually when these questions have truthful answers. Our hearts and our minds will be set free, and we can all have clarity, wisdom, maybe even greater peace. We know Chief Justice John Roberts would not read Senator Rand Paul's question in the impeachment trial of President Trump. But what we don't know is why, or what he thinks we're not allowed to know. We know AG Bill Barr and John Durham have been investigating something for a long time, but what we still don't know is where they have been over the last month or so. I haven't seen them in the press, really one time, nor have I heard any press outfit ask where they are. We know the polls were wrong, just like they were in 2016. Not a little wrong, but a lot wrong. Wisconsin, Biden plus 17. It's one of my favorites. We know the mainstream media has proclaimed victory for President Biden, but we know that they've also been wrong before. We know claims of massive voter fraud have been made by the Trump team, but we don't know any of the evidence yet. We know all citizens should be given a chance to prove their case in the court system, but we also know there are those suggesting that they should go home and not exercise that right. We know that this should all be worked out in the Supreme Court, but we know the Democrats likely will not agree simply because President Trump has appointed 3 of the justices. We know neoconservative global management policies and neoliberal domestic policies lead to the same end. We know there's a massive struggle taking place between globalists and nationalists, but we never discuss the complexities or the merits or drawbacks of either direction and the challenges therein. Think about this one. When's the last time you've ever seen footage or a speech from one of the following world leaders? President Xi of China, President Kim Jong-un of North Korea, Vladimir Putin, the Ayatollah. You never hear their point of view, and yet some we were ready to go to nuclear war against. It is always through the lens of the corporate media complex. And you've seen how they censor our president. We know that the battle for social justice through the lens of identity politics may likely never come to an end. Just like the war on terror, there will always be a dragon to slay. We know that the Epstein story is still just as real as it was when it broke out, and no one in the press is really asking many questions about it. We know the U.S. Marshal Service has rescued hundreds of children over the last 4 years, and the mainstream media doesn't cover that. We know that whistleblowers today can remain permanently anonymous. Blind accusations can be made against American citizens. But what we don't know is why that's acceptable. This is the essence of cancel culture. We know that as of now, here are some of the happiest institutions in the United States. The big tech industries, Wall Street, the big banks, Hollywood, the major media outlets, the Antifa, the Black Lives Matter movement, the NEA, the deep state, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack and Michelle Obama, James Clapper, John Brennan, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, the Mueller team, critical race theory supporters are all happy. We know that many of our citizens have voted in favor of the censorship of American voices. They have rejected the idea of equal justice under the law. They've empowered unelected oligarchs and bureaucrats to govern the nation with rules they will create and enforce. They've allowed some lies to go unchallenged. They've protected the bad deeds committed by themselves and projected them onto the president himself. We know that many individuals working in these institutions have knowingly kept many truths from the American people and have allowed the system of lies to perpetuate. We know that thinking critically about all of these questions should be discussed before the American people can believe in anything, including America itself. So here we are. We still really have no idea what the hell is going on, but we could find out if we, the people, demanded transparency. Until then, I will continue my trust in the Lord. His will be done. The Lord works in mysterious, awesome ways. Most Americans, Democrats, Republicans, would probably suggest that this is the greatest country on earth, the greatest hope, the greatest symbol for freedom in the world. So it's fitting that the search for the truth itself will literally go on trial in the nation which best represents the hope of the rights of all mankind. And that will be battled out in the Supreme Court of the United States. This is it. It's the end of the current road for the struggle between right and wrong. Someone is not telling the truth. Many have something to hide. The truth is, some people may not want the answers to many or any of the questions above. But we've reached a time in history where the truth, as beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. And when you don't believe in anything, you will likely fall for anything. So tomorrow's Monday, November 9th, 2020. I'd say buckle up. I think it's going to get more interesting. Until then, keep the faith. Take care.